Today is National Signing Day, and it's kind of sad because this day used to be such a national holiday, but Tennessee looks to lock down a top 10 class.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Wednesday morning Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town covering your Tennessee Volunteers. And today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You go ahead and download that app today. This is Locked On Vols, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network available. Everydayers could not do this show without you. Thank you so much for making this your first listen, your first watch each and every single day, and we got a fun, loaded show coming up. Jack Foster of Omaha Productions is going to join the show to give us his thoughts on Tennessee's football season in review. We'll continue that series this week. Ward Wednesday will do the same with Josh Ward in segment number 2, plus what's next for Tennessee football and Tennessee basketball as its early season grind of a schedule before SEC slated, as you begun that kind of last week in Las Vegas, and that continues against a down Syracuse team last night, obviously, and then, of course, a Syracuse team that was down, and of course, continuing on before that SEC slate begins. That's coming up in segment 2 with Josh Ward, but gonna kind of set the scene, if you will, for 2025 National Signing Day. And again, Signing Day used to be such a holiday, right? I tell the story every single year. Growing up, really good friend Nathan Trower, he used to stay home and watch ESPN's coverage of National Signing Day, fake sick, and I don't know if he faked sick. Maybe his parents let him stay home. I can't remember. But he was all about Signing Day growing up. And I've worked in the recruiting industry for quite some time now. I used to be more hands-on with recruiting itself, more so in years past than I am now. But working for On3, I mean, that is, recruiting is the lifeline of On3. It's the lifeline of VolQuest.com, that and the VolQuest message boards known as the General's Quarters. And so it is a massive, massive big deal. So recruiting is a big deal. Signing Day just isn't what it used to be. It used to be in February, and now it's been in December going on. Gosh, this is probably the 8th or 9th year in a row that we've had an early National Signing Day. But you now see, you've seen a shift in the calendar. The calendar continues to change with transfer portal and roster retention and bowl games and playoffs, and you're seeing coaches now leaving teams in the college football playoff to go and take a job in Baton Rouge. I mean, it's kind of craziness, right? And the National Signing Day luster's kind of lost a little bit. I hope and I pray that the calendar at some point can get more like a National Football League calendar, where you do away with spring practice and you have OTAs, okay? Might have a mini camp, if you will, at some point in the summer, but more OTA practices. And you move signing day back to February, that first Wednesday in February, and then you can move the transfer portal to May. And again, that's a conversation for a different day. But my point is, this day used to be awesome, and this day now is just kind of like, okay, well, that guy's already been committed, that guy's already been committed, that guy's already been committed, and it's just about getting them into the class and getting, those T's crossed and those I's dotted. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't come with some intrigue. You enter National Signing Day for Tennessee, and Tennessee has currently the 10th ranked class in the Rivals industry rankings, 5th in the SEC. All right, I know fans are on top five class. It's just, and again, it kind of goes to say with the transfer portal, this isn't end all be all anymore, right? I'm not saying you wouldn't rather be 8th or 10th. You wouldn't rather be 5th than 7th, right? But being top 5 to top, there's not that much of a difference anymore because of the transfer portal. So in my opinion, you lock down a top 10 class, that's solid work. Tennessee had the 11th ranked class last year, currently going into signing day as the 10th ranked class, 5th in the SEC, and 24 total commits. Now, Tennessee did pick up a commit yesterday on the eve of National Signing Day, and that was by Nuke Simmons, a very interesting prospect. Nuke Simmons wasn't playing 11-on-11 football really this time last year. And it's interesting to say that he played this thing called 8-on-8 football, and I got to be honest with you guys, I'm unfamiliar with that game. I don't know what that is. I know 7-on-7. I know, playing with no pads and it's all passing, and you have those 7-on-7 competitions, and that's a form of training in the summer back when I played. I'm not familiar with 8-on-8, okay? In my mind, 8-on-8 is kind of like NFL Street, not with the physicality and the penalties and all that, but just like, the center and two guards and the quarterback, running back. Why? Like, I don't know what 8-on-8 football is. I'll educate myself. But my point is, Nuke Simmons transferred to Carver High School in Columbus, Georgia, is playing for head coach who is his cousin Jarvis Jones, formerly of Georgia, also played with the Steelers. And he's at Carver High School, a really good program in Columbus, Georgia. So he's still learning the game of football. He's still learning the ins and outs. But here's why Tennessee took him, okay? 6'3", 310. Athletic ability to where when playing 8-on-8 football, obviously there's not as much lineman in that game, was playing tight end, was playing running back, was playing skill positions. So he's a really good athlete. And Tennessee wants to put that on the interior of the defensive line. Think Bryson Eason. Bryson Eason showed up at Tennessee as a linebacker. At Whitehaven, he played safety, played linebacker as well. Transferred down to defensive end, then in the interior. And Bryson Eason was a good, physical, athletic defensive lineman for Rodney Gardner for several years. Now, this year he was battling with injuries all year long, and that's unfortunate that he has to end his career kind of injury-riddled a little bit. But that's the type of athleticism I think you can get with a guy like Simmons. Nuke Simmons, again, Carver High School, first year of true 11-on-11 football. He's not highly ranked whatsoever. He's a 3-star. He's like a, top 2,000 player. Again, he's not gone to camps. He's very, very, very late bloomer, if you will. But you take chances on those guys, given the football pedigree in his family, given his size, 6'3", 310, and given his athletic ability. So certainly a project player, no doubt. Nobody's disputing that, but a late add to this class on the eve of National Signing Day. So that brings Tennessee to 24 commits right now. 24 commits on the eve of National Signing Day, heading into National Signing Day here on a Wednesday morning. And there are some flip targets available, okay? This is probably the most intriguing part of the day, okay? There is a Aussie punter that Tennessee's in really good position with. It was on his OV visit that could end up being a late add to this class to kind of be the replacement to Jackson Ross and keep that pipeline of MPA punters or Pro Kick Academy punters continuing. We'll see what happens there. JJ Finch is probably the most notable one, highly rated 4-star defensive lineman, Alabama commit, but he's been teetering between Alabama and Tennessee for quite some time. Feels like at the time of this recording, Tennessee has a lot of momentum there. We'll see if Tennessee can close on JJ Finch, a guy that Tennessee's been after for quite some time. Carter Gooden is another one as well. Longtime UCLA commit, defensive lineman, highest rated prospect in that class for UCLA by a large margin. He stayed committed to UCLA throughout the coaching turnover. UCLA reportedly hired a head coach earlier this week. We'll see what happens there. Gooden was also on campus here very recently for an official visit. We'll see where Tennessee stands on National Signing Day with Carter Gooden, the defensive line commit for UCLA. Legend Bay is also worth noting. At the time of this recording, I'm not sure if the flip's going to happen. There was some talk a couple of weeks ago that the one-time Tennessee commit who flipped to Ohio State was likely to be back in the class or had a good chance of being back in the class. I'm not sure that that's going to be a thing now. We will see, but Legend Bay, the 4-star rated athlete from the state of Texas, is somebody to watch here on National Signing Day. If he sticks with the Buckeyes or if he flips back to the Volunteers, right now I'd say he probably sticks with the Buckeyes, but things change every 5 minutes in the world of recruiting, just like in the transfer portal. And just like in coaching searches. Amari Latimer's a name we've talked about several times. Longtime running back commit to Wisconsin. Wisconsin hanging on to its coaching staff. We'll see what Latimer decides to do. I wouldn't call that imminent whatsoever. If Tennessee does not get Latimer to flip, Tennessee's probably not going to sign a running back in this class, and we'll look to the transfer portal. But Amari Latimer at running back commit to Wisconsin, somebody to be mindful of here today. I don't have his name written down in front of me, and I forgot his first name and how to pronounce his first name. Carr, the defensive lineman from Florida, recently took an OV here as well. Probably going to stick with the Gators, but another defensive lineman to be on the lookout for, a Florida commit, a defensive lineman, last name Carr. So, again, those are some flip candidates, some other uncommitted prospects right now as we enter National Signing Day. The one that stands out is Jordan Carter. One-time Texas A&M commit. He's been on campus several times this fall. Auburn's in that running with the new coach, and we'll see what they're doing with DJ Durkin at the time of this recording. Georgia Tech's a factor there, as is Tennessee. And Jordan Carter is someone to watch in terms of the uncommitted players that could join this class. So we'll see what happens. Those are some names to monitor. Obviously, Tennessee enters signing day again, 24 commits, number 10 in the country, number 5 in the SEC, headlined by 5-star quarterback prospect, top 10 player in the country, Faizon Brandon, who's been committed to Tennessee and Josh Heupel since August of 2024. Tristen Keys, 5-star wide receiver. Seems like he's in great standing to go ahead and lock his thing down, lock down his recruitment, sign those papers here this morning, commit to Tennessee. Tristen Keys, one time committed to Brian Kelly and LSU. Really excited to get his career started with Tennessee. TJ White, linebacker from Mississippi, 4-star linebacker. Joel Wyatt, athlete from the in-state, highly rated 4-star player. Gabriel Ascenda, 4-star offensive tackle from Baylor School. Braden Rouse, 4-star linebacker from Georgia Kell High School. Those are the top 100 commits in the class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 top 100 commits in the class. And then you get to the Knoxville Catholic product and Tyreek King, 4-star wide receiver. A lot of other talented players that I really like in this class. 4-star offensive lineman Kamari Blair, one-time commit to South Carolina, flipped to Tennessee back in the summer. Hezekiah Harris, one-time commit to Auburn, flipped to Tennessee in the summer, 4-star rated edge. Zach Groves, 4-star defensive lineman. Athlete defensive back Zayden Anderson from Greenville High School, 4-star rated athlete. Darion Albert, 4-star rated defensive lineman. Kedrick Golston, a 3-star edge. Darrell Rivers, 3-star defensive lineman. Javonte Smith, 3-star athlete. Joel Combe, 3-star defensive back. Luke Thompson, 3-star defensive back. KJ McClain, 3-star corner. CJ Edwards, Leo, 3-star. This class loves him. One of the more underrated guys in the class. Edward Baker, 3-star offensive lineman. Luka Wolf, 3-star tight end from the NFL Academy. And then, of course, the one Tennessee got yesterday, and that is Nuke Simmons, 3-star rated defensive lineman from Carver High School. So that's a look at the class, look at some potential flip targets and some uncommitted prospects Tennessee fans should be mindful of here on National Signing Day. We'll come back tomorrow, and of course, we'll get you all the highlights and what happened everywhere on National Signing Day and what this class looks like finalized. We'll tell you about it all right here on Locked On Vols. When we come back, we'll get into our conversation with Josh Ward for Ward Wednesday, his thoughts on the Vanderbilt loss and where Tennessee goes from here. That's coming up next as we continue on here at your Wednesday Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. The NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on as the action unfolds. Easy drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into that moment. Live spreads on money lines adjust instantly during games. Player props update as guys start to heat up. You can be next touchdown scores. You can bet on those, as well as drive results, totals, and more, as it keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. Plus, college basketball season is happening right now. Get in those futures, SEC champions, NCAA, Final Four, national title odds, all that and more, plus real-time live betting over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So, get in the action right now. FanDuel.com. Place your NFL bets all season long with FanDuel, the game that moves fast, and so can you. FanDuel, it's where you can make every moment more. Josh Ward Wednesday here on Locked On Vols. Josh, obviously not the way Tennessee wanted to finish the regular season. Really bad second half against Vanderbilt. Losing to Vanderbilt's never good, obviously. This is a pretty stout Vanderbilt club, but it's the way you lost specifically in the second half. You got bullied and on your home field, and that's not a good product to see.
Yeah, Vanderbilt in the second half treated Tennessee like we're used to seeing Tennessee treat Vanderbilt, where in the past, last year included, as the game would play out, Tennessee would show, we're just better than you, and it's going to be obvious to everybody by the end of the game. Well, on Saturday, there was no doubt left about which team was better this season. Vanderbilt is a better team. It had a better season, and it was clearly better for 60 minutes in the
Be careful.
stadium.
Some Tennessee fans will still fight you on that, so be careful.
Well, they can go fight with the wall, because trying to argue with anybody with sense is going to be wrong in that case. Tennessee had an 8-4 season. It had capabilities at different times. It could have beaten Georgia. It didn't. It could have done some different things to beat Oklahoma. Did not. And it got pushed around in the end by Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt has a legitimate case for the college football playoff. Tennessee doesn't have much of a case to be a top 25 team right now. That doesn't mean Tennessee's program is falling apart, or it doesn't have to mean that. What it means is that Tennessee needs to look in the mirror. It needs to figure out what happened to be in this position this season, at what needs to change to be back in the position the Vols were in 2024, and where Tennessee wants to be moving forward. In the interview with Chris Lowe of On3, Josh Heupel talked about wanting to win big at Tennessee. That's his goal. He wants to win big. I have no doubt about that. He won a national championship as a quarterback. He's been to the playoff as a head coach. Josh Heupel is about competing for championships and about competing in big games. This year's team fell short in all of the big games that it played in terms of the competition. So it needs to figure out what's wrong. Anybody that's afraid of criticism and wants to avoid it and act like everything's fine is going in the wrong direction. It's about figuring out what happened, what went wrong, and how that can be fixed heading into 2026.
Yeah, I mean, but both things can be true right here. Like, you're exactly right. And it's hard in the moment when you get punked like that. You lose 3 home games. You lose like that to Vanderbilt. You miss out on the playoffs. It's hard to sit here and kind of be grounded and realize, like, this program is not off the rails. This program is not in a horrible place. You think this program's in a horrible place? I invite you to go back 5 years in the past and see where this program was, okay? Mm-hmm. But also, to your point again, you still need to take steps. You still need to evolve. You still need to get better. This is not the standard at Tennessee, and both of those things can be true. So my question for you is, and what everybody wants to know, and there's not one simple answer. Maybe there is. Please tell me, how does Tennessee take that step? How does Tennessee make sure losing 3 games at home doesn't happen? It's only going to get more challenging. Have you seen the home slate next year? It is pretty wild. Yeah, look at it right there. Home, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, LSU, Kentucky, 3 of those teams at home. Tennessee will be squaring off against a new coach. On the road is Arkansas, South Carolina, A&M, and Vanderbilt. Arkansas will have a new coach as well. It's only going to get tougher is what I'm trying to say. So how does Tennessee take that step and make sure that type of game doesn't happen again? Because, again, losses will happen. Tennessee is past getting beat up and bullied like it did on Saturday. That was 2021. That was 2020, 2019. That shouldn't be 2025 and moving forward.
Yeah, here are a couple of examples of where I think the conversation needs to be focused the right way. So it's easy to say, well, don't forget that Tennessee lost its quarterback in the spring. And there were other issues that Tennessee had to deal with. So they tried to overcome that and just fell a little bit short. What I would say is, okay, why did the Nico thing happen? Why did the Boo Carter situation play out the way that it did? What needs to happen to keep that from occurring next year or again in the future? We heard so much about the leadership council. I don't question the quality of people that were helping lead in Tennessee's locker room. I don't question their character at all. I do question the process of it. I do question what I heard about what some leaders thought about Boo Carter's situation and then how it played out over the next 3 months. So there's a process issue there. I do question, okay, is everything where it needs to be with strength and conditioning? I do question, is everything where it needs to be with the coaching staff and all of the evaluation process of roster management and the money side? There's a lot that goes into this. It's not one thing. It's not, well, change the defensive coordinator and everything's fixed. What if you hire the wrong defensive coordinator? You have all kinds of things that have to be figured out. So, and by the way, that's not easy, but Josh Heupel's paid a ton of money to be in charge of getting that figured out. I also think that he agrees. I think Josh Heupel is looking at this season saying that's not good enough. And he knows what you just showed. The schedule's tougher next year. Tennessee got a break with its schedule the last 2 seasons. Tennessee took advantage of it in 2024, went 10-2. If Tennessee played Florida's schedule in 2024, the Vols were not going to the playoff. And if Tennessee played Florida or Oklahoma's schedule this year, then it really would have been bad. So Tennessee is fortunate that it got the schedule it did the last 2 seasons, but it's not getting that schedule next year, and it better be ready because Florida's also not sitting back saying, well, we'll see if things get better. They're being aggressive in trying to get better. Auburn is being aggressive in trying to get better. I don't have to tell you what's going on at LSU as they're trying to get back to the top of the SEC. And you know what Alabama and you know what Texas is going to do. And by the way, Diego Pavia is moving on and nothing's guaranteed, but Clark Lee's staying at Vanderbilt. They're not going to crumble. So Tennessee has to be ready for that. And that's why I think Josh Heupel will. I think Josh Heupel is going to do his best to be honest in evaluating what's going on and figuring out how things need to change, I think Danny White will think the same thing. Danny White knows that Tennessee football has to compete at a high level for Tennessee athletics to go where he wants it to go.
Does Vanderbilt get to the finish line with five-star quarterback Jared Curtis here on National Signing Day? We'll find out. But if that is to happen, and speaking with some Vanderbilt people who covered the team last week, maybe that's bigger than itself. Maybe it shows that Vanderbilt's for real. They go out and get another transfer impact quarterback to come in and play this year. We'll see how that plays out. Speaking of which, it is National Signing Day. Josh Ward, how different is today compared to what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago when you've always, you've written, about Tennessee recruits, you've covered Tennessee recruiting. It's just not even on the radar, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not. It's a reflection of how things have changed completely in college football. The lead up to signing day used to be everything in college football at that time. That was the only thing being talked about. Now, is it a different time up until however many years ago when it was in February and you had moved on past the football season? Now it's happening right before championship weekend and with everything else going on in the storylines. And there's more anticipation of the transfer portal when it will open and what's going to happen with signing day. It used to be all the build up to what's going to happen, all the different storylines and the rumors, and you'd get up at 4 or 5 a.m. to prepare for what was going to happen, how things would unfold, and everybody would have an itinerary of what to follow with announcements. And it was a huge deal. It was a lot of fun to cover, by the way, but it's not that anymore. And then I don't even know if that's a bad thing. It's just completely different, and it's non-existent in terms of the anticipation of signing day, I would say.
Call your shot. Tennessee is going what nobody cares about right now. Call your shot. Tennessee's going bowling where?
This is a total guess. I would guess Jacksonville, but that's a total guess. You couldn't surprise me with Nashville or Charlotte. I don't know. I would have bet strongly on Tampa with a win this past weekend, but the loss, I think, throws everything out there, and I don't know. Of course, there's the playoff effect, so I'll give you a guess of Jacksonville with the Gator Bowl.
It's weird. You see all the projections here earlier in the week, and Tennessee's still a popular pick to go to Tampa, and I don't quite understand that. Like, I'm sure the SEC
I don't know if I totally understand how things work with the bowl process anymore either. That also used to make a lot more sense. But so I would say anything could go within relative choice here.
Yeah, let's not forget Tennessee was 8-4 in 2023 and went to the Citrus Bowl. So
yeah,
does it really make a whole lot of sense? Out the door, man. Tennessee basketball. What you've seen so far here in the early going, Nate Amen is going to be SEC Freshman of the Week every week, it appears. Jacoby Gillespie. What you saw from Bishop Boswell last week in Las Vegas? I know they ended on a disappointing note, losing to a shorthanded Kansas club, but probably the best win of that tournament over Houston the day before.
I would say that for sure. In terms of the level of competition and what was needed there, I would say my biggest takeaway was what Tennessee is capable of in matching and exceeding in another team's intensity. Houston knows what it takes as a program to play at a high level late in the season when it's postseason basketball time. And Houston, by the way, has some things to figure out with young talent that's come in. Houston's going to be a really good team, I think, this season. So it's a great win from a resume standpoint. But my bigger takeaway was how Tennessee was able to respond, what Bishop Boswell was able to do in those kinds of games. Jalen Carey is going to be so important. He showed that against Houston, and that's why he was brought in, as Tennessee wanted to improve its front court. And what did Kelvin Sampson say after the game? Hey, those guys, Felix Okpara, Jalen Carey, JP Estrella, they are men, and they're 3 starter-level players at the front court. That's what Rick Barnes wanted. That's what he got. I'm still going to wonder about consistent shooting, consistent number of scores for Tennessee on the offensive end. But Jacoby Gillespie leading the way, Nate Amen is going to continue to improve as the season goes along. Playing in that type of game was really good for him to see what is going to be expected at the end of the season. There'll be some ups and downs. That's the way the sport works. That's the way it's going to work for Tennessee this season. But the potential for Tennessee is sky high, I think.
We turn on the radio dial at noon, sometime between noon and 3 on 99.1 The Sports Animal. You and VFL Jason Swain. What will we hear today and the rest of the week?
Yeah, we're talking big picture stuff. So there is the stuff at the time of what's going on with signing day and recruiting and all that. But we've zoomed out this week to look at what needs to happen with Tennessee football, all kinds of opinions from fans. So you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Just search Josh and Swain, and you can find us Monday through Friday, noon to 3 on the Sports Animal and in the Tri-Cities area, the Sports Monster.
And right here, Josh, at least, right here on Locked On Vols every Wednesday. Josh, as always, man, thanks so much.
Yep, thanks, Eric.
Well, and welcome back on a friend of the show, Jack Foster, joining us here on Locked On Vols. Jack works for Omaha Productions, and he produces a lot of shows, a lot of online digital platform shows for some of the biggest personalities in sports media today. I don't want to leave anybody out, but Jack, tell the audience right now who all you work with Monday through Friday during football season on pretty much a daily basis.
Yeah, so the top priority, the show I produce mainly is SV Pod with Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve. We've been doing live college football recaps late Saturday nights, 11:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN YouTube. So that's been a lot of fun. And we also have a midweek pod as well. But, Greg McElroy, always college football. I've worked with him for over 3 years now. The Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny, of course, an NFL show twice a week. I work with Mina on. And a new addition to the Omaha slate this season has been Peter Schrager's The Schrager Hour. So I've gotten to know Peter and work with him as well. But definitely SVP and Stanford Steve are my guys, and that's what I spend most of my time on.
I love 2025 sports media because you got great people like you. River Bailey at On3 does this, helps us out some, and there's countless others that do all the behind the work stuff, and you can be anywhere in the country doing that. I mean, again, you're working with all these people, and Amina's on the West Coast, I believe. Scott Van Pelt's in is he in Bristol?
DC.
DC, that's right, the DC.
Yeah, and Steve.
Greg's in Birmingham, so I love how all that works. All right, back down to business here, and a reason why I want to bring you on, obviously, Tennessee background. You've been on this beat before. You went to the University of Tennessee, but you're around all these personalities, and you get to hear kind of what these thoughts are as well to kind of combine with your own. Overall thoughts: Tennessee finished the year, obviously a disgusting loss to Vanderbilt at home, 8-4, 4-4 in SEC play. Your immediate thoughts, reactions to this season for Josh Heupel?
Yeah, it's like I thought after the Florida win that was the swing where it was like, okay, is this going to be a disappointing season or a solid season? Because I think most fans would have taken 9-3 prior to the year, or at least accepted it, right? You knew Tennessee had some hard road battles, some tough home games as well, but if they could win 9 games with, kind of a bridge quarterback, if you will, and Joey Aguilar, can make do with that and be satisfied. And look, a win in the swamp, especially in that fashion, first time since 2003, I think at the time after that game, that Sunday, it's like, okay, this season, Tennessee's not going to make the playoff, but can live with it. A solid year. But then all of that is kind of just thrown to the wayside with the way the second half against Vanderbilt went. Of course, your rival getting dominated at home like that, just leaving a bitter taste to end the regular season. It's kind of brought me back to leaning that this is a disappointing year. I know Vandy is way better than anyone anticipated, and that game became so much more difficult. But just the fact that you lost 3 home games, I don't think you can say this was a good year. Look, Josh Heupel in Tennessee, they'd only lost 3 home games total, right, before this year in his era, and only 1 since 2021, his first season. So the fact you lost 3, one that was essentially a playoff game in Oklahoma. I know Tennessee ends up losing to Vandy, but at the time you think, hey, Tennessee can beat Oklahoma. Playoff chances are looking pretty solid down the line. And then, of course, the worst part of the season is the second half against Vanderbilt. So all in all, a slightly disappointing season, certainly not a horrible year, but there's just no good wins, Eric. You can't say it's a good year when there's just no good wins.
No, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think God, it's just the way you lost to Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt's a good team this year. People are still mad at me for saying that, but I mean, they're a good team this year, but it doesn't matter. You should never be bullied and lose like that. You don't lose like that to Alabama anymore. You don't lose like that to Georgia. You just don't lose like that. And you got bullied on your home turf, and you're right. 3 losses at home. It's so hard to win on the road in this league. You got to take care of business at home, and Tennessee did not do that. I mean, you could have won that Georgia game 14 different times, and you didn't. But still, that loss kind of changed the expectations. Because, I mean, again, you lost your quarterback, and I'm not trying to act like Nico is all world or anything, but you lost your quarterback on April the 12th. And you're like, well, what the crap are you going to do here? Yeah. And so your expectations reset then, and then you see that Georgia loss, you're like, oh, okay, all right, we're in for something here. And it still kind of fizzles out here at the end. So I agree with a lot of what you said. And I kind of talked about this earlier in the week. Like, there's nothing to hang your hat on this year. The offense looked better, and that's good in some respects. And Joey was really fun to watch. But you didn't have a win. You literally beat nobody. And moving forward, and it's kind of hard to decipher now because you don't really know what this roster looks like. Like, what needs to change in this for this football team? Like, in your opinion, staff changes, portal heavy, cultural aspects. Like, what changes need to happen? Because I mean, this team, you can never stay put. You got to continue to evolve. Heupel's done an incredible job here, but you got to continue to evolve, right? You need to be back in that college football playoff conversation at the end of November next year for sure, or that's going to be very disappointing.
Yeah, I don't want to go firing anybody. Of course, I don't think people would blame Heupel if there are staff changes made on the defensive side of the ball. Look, the offense is his thing. You know, I've heard some people say, what if Tennessee changed things up on the offensive side of things, brought in a mind? Look, Heupel is the mind. The identity of Tennessee football is Josh Heupel offense. So if you're going to tinker with that, then the Heupel era is just kind of on the back nine already.
And he brought in another set of eyes in Seth Luttrell already.
Correct.
And again, the run game wasn't as good as you wanted it to be this year, still over 2,000 yards, the worst in the Heupel era, but like the offense did kind of evolve a little bit. And so
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, you have to give credit to the staff because Joey Aguilar is not some stud. He comes in off a bad year at App State. He's kind of a retread. He's not played in big games in his career, and he was able to be a solid quarterback in the SEC this year. And that's a big credit to Joey, but also a big credit to the staff. I mean, if this was a disaster with him, I don't think people would have been too surprised. And it wasn't. So credit there. But yeah, there's going to be no identity change on the offensive side of the ball. Don't obviously foresee that happening. Don't think that should be a thing that happens. But there's staff changes defensively. I don't think anybody should have an issue with that. But I'm also not firing anybody. Talk about just getting better. Got to be more consistent defensively. Got to, Scott Van Pelt always say, sign up for 60. It feels like a lot of these losses Tennessee has had in the past couple of years, they just get worn down. Against quarterback run, they've been bad. On money downs, third down defense hasn't been good in the Tim Banks era, since Heupel come to town. Outside of 23, this defense has been largely disappointing. I said 23, I meant 24. Yeah. 23 was solid. 24 was great at times. Those 2 years were really good. I'll point to the defense, but if I had any issue with the offense, it would just be that it's so big play reliant. It doesn't feel like things are easy for the offense when the big plays aren't there. And I don't know quite how to change that. I'm not some wonderkind, but that would be what I look to. And the run game, I think, will always have a safe floor in this offense.
Yeah, again, like this was the worst rushing offense of the Heupel era, and they still ran for over 2,000 yards. I'm not trying to say that it was a lot of times in big games it didn't show up. I love football's so funny. Deshaun Bishop had 97 yards rushing. Tennessee as a team had 83. I hate how stats and sacks kind of against that, but nonetheless, I agree with the run game. It needs to take a step, but it's always got a high floor in this offense. Last thing for you, one of the most intriguing questions, and we don't have the answer to this right now because Tennessee's going to sign Faizon Brandon today. You got George McIntyre, GMAC. Jake Merklinger's on the roster right now. What's going to happen with Joey Aguilar? The quarterback question for 26 is very interesting. If the courts rule in favor of the JUCO players and Joey Aguilar gets another year, are you signing up for that? Or should Tennessee go and get another quarterback? Or should Tennessee roll with GMAC or Faizon? Well, what's your take on quarterback? And my take is this is simple. Was he All-American? No, but I mean, you'd be a fool, in my opinion, not to roll it back with Joey if given the opportunity. Where do you stand on that?
Largely agree with you. Look, the grass isn't always greener, and unless you're able to get like Lenore Sellers or something out of the portal, which would be an absolute coup. That's something you can't forecast happening. But unless you're able to get someone just an absolute dynamo out of the portal, I don't think you would not run it back with Joey if that was presented to you. But Cainer, to be honest, I would be excited if Tennessee just went all in on Faizon from day one. I think it would be a lot of fun. I don't think it's going to happen. That is totally against Heupel's track record with how he's treated freshmen in his years at Tennessee. But as someone who just enjoys storylines and anticipation of the next season, I think the fans would get behind it. And to me, it would propel this program forward if it works, of course. Like if Faizon is that guy and you trust him to go out year one, I think it could be really exciting and ultimately years down the road could pay off dividends.
We just have no patience in college football now. There's no patience in the NFL either. You draft a quarterback and you got to play him immediately, and they're not ready. But you have that investment. The same a lot of times in the college realm. But to your point, man, like with Nico sat behind Joe for a year, and then it took an elite defense to kind of prop him up in 24. My counter to that, and I agree with you, it'd be exciting if they went all in on Faizon and it'd be fun because he's such a gifted player. My counter to that would be like, look, man, you're going to return a ton on the offensive line. If everybody stays, nobody hits the portal. Like, even if Lance Hurd goes to the NFL, you're technically bringing back 5 starters if you count Sham Umarov. Mm-hmm. You're bringing back talent in the backfield that's played a lot. You're bringing back, again, if all things stay the same, Mike Matthews and Brandon Staley. Bringing back tight end group that you really like. You're bringing back a ton offensively. So it's like, man, do you want to waste that? You know, with maybe, I don't want to say waste, but a freshman quarterback's going to go through his lulls and all that. So, again, this is why it's such a fascinating conversation and one that obviously we're going to talk about through the month of December.
Look, Tennessee doesn't have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, or Jeremiah Love, but if Tennessee is confident enough in the supporting cast and the line, and if the defense is solid and you have a good plan there, what maybe Tennessee set up well enough to have a freshman starting quarterback, because look at what Ohio State and Notre Dame are doing. They're having success with young guys. So it's not something that can be done.
It is not something that can be done. You're exactly right. It would be something that would be different for Josh Heupel, but it is something you can clearly do if you want to do it that way. All right, Jack, as always, man, great stuff. Look forward to hearing your work on all these different platforms, and we'll have you back on soon, man.
Appreciate it.
Great show. Really enjoyed my conversation with Josh Ward for Ward Wednesday. Really enjoyed my catching up with the Omaha Productions' Jack Foster, who works on a variety of ESPN Plus and Omaha Production podcasts. He does a really, really fine job there with some of the biggest sports personalities in the entire country right now. That's Jack Foster, formerly of RTI as well. So really appreciate him jumping on the show. National Signing Day. Who does Tennessee close with? What does this class officially look like this time tomorrow morning? We will discuss the highlights, any surprises, those flips that Tennessee could be getting. All that and more is coming up on your Thursday morning Locked On Vols. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. This is Locked On Vols.